The stars twisted and bent as the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Kepler 442. 200 ships materialized in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming silver against the black void. At the center, the massive battleship UES Indomitable led the fleet with quiet authority. Admiral Chen Wei stood on the bridge, watching the tactical displays with calm eyes. His crew worked silently around him, checking systems and running final diagnostics. They had been traveling for 3 months to reach this system, following strange energy signatures that suggested intelligent life. "Admiral, we're picking up multiple contacts," reported Lieutenant Santos from the sensor station. "Looks like a large fleet, sir. At least 400 ships." Chen nodded slowly. "Any response to our arrival?" "Yes, sir. They're hailing us on multiple frequencies. The computer is working on translation now." Within minutes, the translation software had cracked the alien language. The message was clear and direct. The aliens called themselves the Zephyrian Confederation. Their commander, Admiral Kethvar, demanded that the humans surrender immediately and prepare to become a tributary species. Chen almost smiled. "Open a channel, Lieutenant." The main screen flickered to life, showing a tall, reptilian creature with 4 arms and bright yellow eyes. Admiral Kethvar wore elaborate golden armor and spoke in harsh, guttural tones. "Unknown species," Kethvar said, his voice filled with authority. "You have entered Confederation space without permission. Your small fleet will surrender immediately. You will provide tribute and technology to the Confederation. Resistance will result in destruction." Chen stepped forward, his hands clasped behind his back. "Admiral Kethvar, I'm Admiral Chen Wei of the United Earth Fleet. We're explorers, not conquerors. We came here peacefully to make contact with other intelligent species. We have no interest in conflict." Kethvar's eyes narrowed. "You misunderstand your situation, human. We have 400 ships. You have only 200. Your vessels appear primitive. Submit now, and we will be merciful." "I appreciate the offer," Chen replied politely. "But we must respectfully decline. We're not interested in becoming anyone's subjects." The alien admiral hissed in anger. "Then you have chosen death. All ships, prepare to disable the human vessels. We will take their technology and study their remains." The channel closed. Chen turned to his tactical officer. "Commander Park, what's your assessment of their fleet?" Commander Park studied her screens. "Their ships are large but clunky, sir. Heavy armor, basic weapon systems. They're using older fusion drives and primitive targeting systems. Their formation is rigid and predictable. Defensive capabilities? Basic energy shields, sir. Nothing our quantum torpedoes can't handle." Chen nodded. "All ships. This is Admiral Chen. The aliens have chosen to attack us. Remember your training. Stay calm. Follow the tactical plan. And watch each other's backs. We're going home to our families." The Zephyrian fleet moved first, their 400 ships advancing in a massive wall formation. Their weapons began charging, energy readings spiking across the spectrum. They clearly expected the humans to run or surrender. Instead, the human fleet moved like a living thing. Ships broke formation in perfect coordination, spreading out into complex attack patterns. Their movements were fluid and graceful, each ship knowing exactly where the others would be. "Incoming fire," reported the tactical officer. Energy beams and plasma bolts filled the space between the fleets. The Zephyrian weapons were powerful, but slow and poorly aimed. The human ships danced between the attacks, their advanced engines allowing impossible maneuvers. "Return fire," Chen ordered calmly. The human response was devastating. Quantum torpedoes phased through alien shields like they weren't there. Particle beams sliced through armor plating with surgical precision. Point defense systems shot down incoming missiles before they could reach their targets. The first wave of Zephyrian ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The aliens had never seen weapons like these before. Their shields were useless, their armor meaningless. Human technology was centuries ahead of anything the Confederation possessed. Admiral Kethvar watched his fleet die from his command ship. "How is this possible?" he snarled at his officers. "Their ships are smaller than ours. Sir, their weapons are somehow bypassing our shields," his tactical officer reported. "And their point defense systems are shooting down everything we fire at them." "Then ram them, all ships, close to ramming distance." But the human ships wouldn't let them close. They moved like ghosts, appearing and disappearing from sensor range. Their stealth technology made them nearly invisible until they opened fire. By then, it was too late. Chen watched the battle unfold with professional interest. His ships worked together perfectly, each captain knowing exactly what their admiral wanted. Years of training and simulation had prepared them for this moment. The aliens fought bravely, but they were completely outmatched. "Sir, enemy fleet is down to 50 ships," Commander Park reported. "They're trying to withdraw." "Let them go," Chen said quietly. "We've made our point." The surviving Zephyrian ships fled in disorder, their formation completely broken. Admiral Kethvar's flagship was among them, its hull scarred and smoking from multiple hits. As the aliens disappeared into hyperspace, Chen's communications officer looked up from his station. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the fleeing ships. It's on an open frequency." "Let's hear it." The voice of Admiral Kethvar filled the bridge, speaking rapidly in his own language. The translation came through a moment later. "High Council, this is Admiral Kethvar. The humans. Their fleet is more powerful than anything we've ever seen. We lost over 300 ships. Their technology is far beyond ours. We need to gather our full military strength if we hope to defeat them." Chen turned to his crew. "Well, people, it looks like we've made quite an impression. Prepare a report for Earth Command. Let them know we've made contact with a hostile alien confederation." "Sir, should we pursue the fleeing ships?" asked Commander Park. Chen shook his head. "No. Let them go back to their leaders. Let them tell their story. Maybe when they see what one human fleet can do, they'll think twice about starting a war." But even as he spoke, Chen knew that wasn't likely. In his experience, bullies rarely learned their lesson until they met someone who could hit back harder than they could. The Zephyrian Confederation would return with a bigger fleet, convinced that they had simply underestimated their enemy. Chen would be ready for them. Earth would be ready for them. The aliens had no idea what they were really facing. The human fleet reformed and began moving toward the edge of the system. Behind them, the wreckage of Zephyrian ships drifted in the darkness. A warning that would go unheeded. The High Council chamber on Zephyr Prime was in chaos. 12 species representatives argued loudly as Admiral Kethvar's report played for the third time. The holographic display showed the devastating human attack, ships dying in brilliant explosions as mysterious weapons tore through their defenses. War Marshal Thex Moore, Supreme Commander of the Confederation military, slammed his six-clawed hand on the council table. The massive bear-like alien's fur bristled with anger. "This is impossible. One small fleet cannot defeat 400 of our ships. The evidence is clear," said Councillor Veltar, her insectoid features clicking nervously. "These humans possess technology far beyond our current understanding." "Or," Thexmore growled, "Admiral Kethvar is lying to cover his cowardice." Kethvar's reptilian head snapped up from the witness stand. "You dare question my honor? I lost 300 ships and most of my crew. Would I shame myself with such lies?" The debate continued for hours. Some council members wanted to negotiate with the humans. Others demanded immediate military action. Finally, Thex Moore stood and addressed the chamber. "Enough talk. Whether these humans are lucky or skilled, they must be dealt with. I will take 3 full battle groups to their last known position. 1,200 ships against their 200. Even if their technology is superior, numbers will tell." Meanwhile, Admiral Chen Wei received new orders from Earth Command. The message was brief and encrypted, delivered by quantum communication array. Chen read it twice before calling his senior officers to the conference room. "Gentlemen and ladies," he began. "Earth Command has reviewed our battle reports. They're very interested in this Zephyrian Confederation." Commander Park frowned. Sir, are we getting reinforcements? Chen smiled slightly. Actually, we're being ordered to withdraw. Earth wants us to appear intimidated by the alien response. Let them think they've scared us. Scared us? Lieutenant Santos looked confused. Why would we want them to think that? Would we want them to think that? Because, Chen explained, Earth Command wants to see how large a fleet they'll send. We're to fall back slowly, making it look like we're afraid of their superior numbers. His officers exchanged glances. They had seen what human technology could do against alien ships. The idea of being afraid of any number of Zephyrian vessels seemed absurd. 3 weeks later, War Marshal Thex Moore arrived at the Kepler 442 system with his massive fleet. 1,200 ships of all sizes formed an impressive armada. Battle cruisers, destroyers, carrier ships, and support vessels spread across space in perfect military formation. Tex Moore stood on the bridge of his flagship, the dreadnought Infinite Claw. His tactical officers reported human ships at the edge of the system, exactly where their intelligence had predicted. Only 200 ships, reported his sensor chief. Same as before. Tex Moore's lips pulled back in a predatory grin. Exactly as I expected. These humans got lucky once. Now they face the full might of the Confederation. He opened a channel to Admiral Chen. The human appeared on his screen, looking calm and composed despite facing impossible odds. Admiral Chen, Tex Moore said in perfect English. I am War Marshal Tex Moore, Supreme Commander of Confederation Forces. You have one chance to surrender. My 1,200 ships will show no mercy if you refuse. Chen appeared to consider this seriously. War Marshal, your fleet is indeed impressive. However, I'm afraid I must decline your offer. Tex Moore's eyes narrowed. You're facing 6 times the number of ships that destroyed Admiral Kethvar's fleet. How do you hope to survive? Well, Chen replied thoughtfully, we hoped you'd bring more friends. Our calculations suggested you might need them. The channel closed. Tex Moore stared at the blank screen in confusion. Had the human just insulted his fleet? Did these creatures have no understanding of mathematics? All ships, advance and attack, he ordered. Show these arrogant humans what real military power looks like. The Confederation fleet moved forward like an unstoppable wave. 1,200 ships accelerated toward the human formation, weapons charging and shields at full power. Tex Moore watched with satisfaction as his overwhelming force closed the distance. The humans waited calmly in their tight formation. To Tex Moore, they looked like a small school of fish facing a hungry shark. Then the human fleet moved. The attack was unlike anything the Confederation had ever seen. The human ships didn't just fight. They danced. They moved in 3 dimensions with perfect coordination. Each vessel, knowing exactly where every other ship would be at any given moment. Their weapons were even more devastating than before. New types of torpedoes appeared. Ones that seemed to phase in and out of normal space. Energy beams curved impossible paths around obstacles. Point defense systems shot down incoming fire with inhuman precision. But the most shocking thing was their tactics. The humans had clearly studied the recordings of the first battle. They anticipated every Confederation move, countering strategies before they were fully implemented. Sir, we're losing ships faster than we can count them, reported Tex Moore's tactical officer. Their weapons are cutting through our heaviest armor like paper. Tex Moore watched his fleet die around him. Ships exploded in chain reactions as human weapons found their weak points. Entire squadrons vanished in seconds as the nimble human vessels struck and disappeared before return fire could reach them. How many ships have we lost? He demanded. Over 400, sir, and rising. 400 ships, a third of his entire fleet, destroyed in less than an hour. The humans hadn't even lost a single vessel. Sir, emergency transmission from the High Council, his communications officer reported. They're ordering us to withdraw immediately. Tex Moore's pride warred with his survival instincts. He had never retreated from battle in his entire career. But watching his ships die uselessly around him, he realized he had no choice. All ships, withdraw. Emergency jump to Rally Point Gamma. As the surviving Confederation ships fled toward hyperspace, they intercepted a human communication. The message was in English, but their computers quickly translated it. This is Admiral Chen to all human vessels. Excellent work, people. Maintain formation and prepare for pursuit protocols if necessary. But it was the next part of the message that chilled Thexmore's blood. Earth Command sends their congratulations. They're pleased with our performance against such overwhelming odds. Overwhelming odds? The humans had just destroyed 2/3 of his fleet without breaking formation. How could they consider themselves at a disadvantage? As his battered flagship jumped to hyperspace, Thexmore realized something terrible. These humans weren't just lucky or well-equipped. They were playing with him. The calm confidence in Admiral Chen's voice suggested that 1,200 ships meant nothing to them. Back in the Kepler system, Admiral Chen watched the alien fleet disappear. His communications officer looked up from his station. "Sir, should I send our battle report to Earth Command?" Chen nodded. "Yes. And include a request for minimal reinforcement. Something tells me our new friends will be back with an even bigger fleet." 17-7. Ilon's 2R. Ilon 17. "How many ships do you think they'll bring next time, sir?" Chen considered this seriously. "If I were them, everything they have. They're going to assume this fleet represents our total military strength. They'll want to make sure they outnumber us by a comfortable margin." Commander Park smiled. "They're in for quite a surprise." "Yes," Chen agreed quietly. "They are." The intelligence briefing room on Zephyr Prime was filled with nervous tension. War Marshal Thexmore sat at the head of a long table, his fur still showing patches of missing hair from stress. Around him, the best spies and analysts in the Confederation presented their findings about humanity. "Show me what you've learned," Thexmore growled. Spymaster Inktar activated the holographic display. The insectoid creature's compound eyes reflected the blue light as star maps appeared in the air. "We've been monitoring human space for 2 months. What we've found is disturbing." The display showed a 3-dimensional map of human territory. Dozens of star systems glowed with different colors, indicating levels of military activity. "Every human world we've detected has massive orbital defenses," Inktar continued. "Weapons, platforms, shield generators, and something they call fortress worlds. These are entire planets converted into military bases." Thexmore leaned forward. "How many worlds?" "At least 40, War Marshal. But our sensors suggest there may be many more hidden behind stealth fields." Another analyst, a tall, gray-skinned humanoid named Zoreth, stepped forward. "We've also intercepted human military communications. They reference numbered fleets: 3rd Fleet, 7th Fleet, 9th Fleet. Subunits," Thexmore said firmly. "They're dividing their single fleet into smaller groups for organizational purposes." Zoreth looked uncomfortable. "Perhaps, War Marshal, but the communications suggest otherwise. For example, we intercepted a message about 3rd Fleet's patrol duties in the Proxima sector, while simultaneously detecting 7th Fleet exercises near Alpha Centauri. These locations are hundreds of light-years apart." The room fell silent. If the humans had multiple fleets operating in different sectors simultaneously, then the 200 ships they'd fought was just a small part of humanity's military strength. "Impossible," Thexmore muttered. "No species can support multiple full fleets. The resource requirements alone would be staggering." Inktar manipulated the hologram, zooming in on a particular system. "This is the Sol system, their home world. Our long-range sensors detected massive industrial complexes, shipyards larger than anything we've ever built. The metal signatures suggest they're producing hundreds of ships simultaneously." Thexmore studied the images. The human shipyards were indeed enormous. But he refused to accept the implications. Old shipyards, probably built over centuries. They're likely just maintaining their existing fleet. Deep in the briefing materials was another disturbing piece of intelligence. Human communication protocols suggested a command structure unlike anything the Confederation had encountered. Instead of a single supreme commander, Humans appeared to have multiple fleet admirals, each with independent authority. Meanwhile, in the Sol system, Earth's Defense Council was meeting in the underground command center beneath Geneva. Admiral Sarah Okafor, Supreme Fleet Commander, stood before a massive holographic display showing human military assets across known space. Admiral Chen's reports have been most illuminating, she said to the assembled officers. The Zephyrian Confederation is more numerous than we expected, but their technology is at least 50 years behind ours. General Martinez, head of planetary defenses, studied the tactical data. Their tactics are predictable, and their formations are rigid. Classic mistakes of a military that hasn't fought a peer opponent in generations. What about their numbers? Asked Admiral Singh, commander of the 5th Fleet. Chen estimates they might field up to 4,000 ships in a final assault. Admiral Okafor smiled. That would indeed be impressive. If we were planning to face them with a single fleet, the assembled officers chuckled. Around the table sat the commanders of 10 full fleets, each numbering between 200 and 300 ships. Humanity's total military strength was nearly 3,000 vessels, not counting planetary defenses and reserve units. The question, Admiral Okafor continued, is how much of our strength we should reveal. We could end this conflict immediately with overwhelming force, but that might not serve our long-term interests, observed Admiral Thompson from the 8th Fleet. If we show our full strength, other alien civilizations might unite against us. Better to appear strong, but not impossibly powerful. The debate continued for hours. Some argued for a show of overwhelming force to prevent future conflicts. Others preferred a more measured response that would end the war without revealing humanity's true capabilities. Back in Confederation space, the full military might of 8 species was being assembled. Every available warship was called to service. Civilian vessels were converted into support ships. The largest military force in Confederation history was taking shape. Admiral Keth Var, recently promoted to strategic commander despite his earlier defeat, oversaw the massive logistics operation. Nearly 4,000 ships were gathering at rally points throughout Confederation space. This is our final effort, he told his staff. Every ship we can field. Every weapon we can deploy. The humans have shown they're more capable than we first believed. But numbers must eventually tell. The intelligence reports troubled him, though. The references to numbered human fleets suggested a military organization far more complex than a single expeditionary force. But the High Council had dismissed these concerns as enemy disinformation. In deep space, far from any inhabited system, Admiral Chen received a new set of orders. The message was longer this time, with detailed deployment instructions. Commander Park, he called to his tactical officer. We're getting company. She looked up from her station. Reinforcements, sir? 3 additional fleets will be joining us for the final engagement. 2nd, 5th, and 9th fleets are already en route. The bridge crew exchanged glances. They had grown accustomed to fighting alone against impossible odds. The idea of having 3 more fleets supporting them seemed almost unfair. Sir, Lieutenant Santos asked quietly, won't that be overkill? 4 full fleets against whatever the aliens bring? Chen considered this. Earth Command doesn't believe in fair fights, Lieutenant. If the Confederation wants to escalate, we'll show them what escalation really means. As both sides prepared for the final confrontation, intercepted communications suggested the scope of the coming battle. The Confederation was committing everything they had. Humanity was sending 4 fleets, but there was something neither side had fully grasped yet. The Confederation believed they were facing humanity's total military strength. They had no idea that Earth had 6 additional fleets in reserve, not counting the permanent Sol system defense force. Humanity, on the other hand, was beginning to understand that the Zephyrian Confederation was just one of several major alien powers in this region of space. The coming battle would send a message far beyond the Confederation's borders. Admiral Chen stood on his bridge, watching the stars. Soon, this region of space would host the largest space battle in human history. The Confederation was bringing everything they had. Humanity was bringing enough to end the threat permanently. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine the future of human expansion into the galaxy. Both sides believed they understood what they were facing. Both sides were wrong. War Marshal Thex Moore stood on the command bridge of his massive flagship, the Eternal Dominion. Around him, displays showed the largest military force in Confederation history. 4,000 ships from 8 different species spread across space in a formation 20 kilometers wide and 50 kilometers long. This was everything the Confederation had. Every battleship, every cruiser, every fighter that could be spared from defense duties. The combined might of 12 worlds, representing the military power of nearly 40 billion beings. Final systems check complete, War Marshal, reported Admiral Kethvar from his position at the tactical station. All ships report ready for hyperspace jump. Thex Moore nodded slowly. This would be the decisive battle. The humans had proven surprisingly capable, but no force in the galaxy could stand against 4,000 warships. Not even their advanced technology could overcome such overwhelming numbers. Begin the jump sequence. All ships, prepare for final assault on the human position. The space around the Confederation fleet twisted and bent as 4,000 ships entered hyperspace simultaneously. The largest war fleet in galactic history was about to deliver the final blow to humanity's expansion into space. 24 hours later, the Confederation Armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Sensors immediately began scanning for human ships, expecting to find Admiral Chen's lone fleet waiting in defensive positions. What they found instead made every being on every bridge fall silent. War Marshal. The sensor chief's voice was barely a whisper. I'm reading multiple human fleets in formation. Armarsh. 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 Thex Moore felt his blood turn cold. Sir, I count 4 distinct fleet formations. Each one appears to be the same size as Admiral Chen's original force. The tactical display updated, showing the impossible truth. Where the Confederation expected to find 200 human ships, they now faced nearly 800. 4 complete fleets hung in space in perfect formation, their silver hulls gleaming like deadly stars. This cannot be possible, Thex Moore growled. They cannot have built so many ships so quickly. Admiral Kethvar studied the sensor readings with growing horror. War Marshal. The energy signatures suggest these are all different classes of vessels. These aren't newly built ships. They're established fleets with different design philosophies. The implications were staggering. If the humans had 4 separate fleets, each with its own design characteristics, then they had been building military forces for much longer than anyone had imagined. A communication request appeared on Thex Moore's display. The face of Admiral Chen filled the main screen. But now, he wasn't alone. 3 other human officers stood beside him, each wearing Admiral's insignia. War Marshal Thex Moore, Chen said calmly. I'd like you to meet Admiral Harrison of the 2nd Fleet, Admiral Petrov of the 5th Fleet, and Admiral Tanaka of the 9th Fleet. Each human officer nodded politely as they were introduced. Their calm confidence was more terrifying than any threat could have been. This is impossible, Thex Moore snarled. No species can support multiple fleets of this size. You're using some kind of deception technology. Admiral Harrison, a stern-faced woman with gray hair, spoke up. I assure you, War Marshal, all of our ships are quite real. We've been looking forward to this meeting. But how? Demanded Admiral Kethvar from his position. How did you build so many ships without our intelligence networks detecting them? Admiral Chen looked genuinely puzzled. Built? War Marshal, these fleets have been operational for over a decade. We simply hadn't needed them before now. The words hit the Confederation commanders like physical blows. Over a decade? These humans had been maintaining 4 military fleets for 10 years? And nobody had known? You're lying, Thex Moore said, but his voice lacked conviction. This is some kind of trick. Admiral Tanaka, a young Asian man with calm eyes, stepped forward. War Marshal, we understand your confusion, but we've been preparing for contact with hostile alien civilizations for a very long time. Our military doctrine assumes the worst-case scenario. Admiral Petrov, a heavily built man with a Russian accent, added, "We learned long ago that peace can only be maintained through superior firepower. These 4 fleets represent our forward deployment force." Forward deployment force? The phrase echoed in Thexmore's mind. If these were forward deployed fleets, what did that say about humanity's rear defenses? The Confederation fleet began its attack anyway. 4,000 ships against 800 still seemed like acceptable odds. Despite the humans' technological advantages, surely numbers would eventually tell. The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. The 4 human fleets moved with perfect coordination, each one specializing in different aspects of warfare. The first fleet, Chen's original force, focused on precision strikes and electronic warfare. The second fleet deployed advanced defensive systems and point defense networks. The fifth fleet specialized in long-range bombardment, their weapons reaching across impossible distances. The ninth fleet seemed to focus on maneuverability and close-quarters combat. Together, they formed a military machine that operated with inhuman precision. Every ship knew exactly where every other ship would be. Their combined tactics created overlapping fields of destruction that no Confederation vessel could penetrate. "Sir, we've lost 600 ships in the first hour," reported Admiral Kethvar. His voice was steady, but his hands shook as he read the damage reports. Thexmore watched his carefully planned formations dissolve under the human assault. Ships that had served the Confederation for decades were being destroyed faster than he could count them. "Their coordination is impossible," he muttered. "No fleet command structure can manage 4 separate forces with such precision." That was when they intercepted the human communications. "This is Admiral Chen to all First Fleet vessels. Maintain current attack pattern and prepare for Phase 2 engagement." Admiral Harrison to Second Fleet. "Defensive screen is holding perfectly. Continue point defense protocols." Admiral Petrov here. Fifth Fleet has clear firing solutions on enemy heavy units, engaging with quantum bombardment. Ninth Fleet acknowledging. "We have enemy flankers isolated, moving to eliminate." But it was the next communication that made Thexmore's blood freeze. First through 4th and 9th Fleets, maintain engagement protocols. 5th Fleet. Prepare for pursuit operations. 4th Fleet? The humans had mentioned 1st, 2nd, 5th, and 9th Fleets. But now they were referencing a 4th Fleet as well? "Sensor Chief," Thexmore called urgently. "Are you detecting any additional human ships?" "No, sir. Just the 4 fleets we already identified." Thexmore stared at the tactical display in growing horror. If the humans were referencing a 4th Fleet that wasn't present in the battle, then there were more human forces elsewhere. The numbered designations weren't organizational units within a single fleet. They were separate, independent fleets. As the Confederation forces continued to die around him, a terrible understanding began to dawn. The humans had numbered their fleets. 1st, 2nd, 4th, 5th, 9th. If the pattern held, there might be at least 9 human fleets in existence. The Confederation had committed everything they had against what they thought was humanity's total military strength. Instead, they were fighting less than half of the human fleet. "All ships," Thexmore ordered desperately. "Emergency withdrawal. Jump to rally Point Omega immediately." As the surviving Confederation vessels fled toward hyperspace, they intercepted one final human communication. "This is Admiral Chen to Earth Command. Engagement proceeding as expected. Enemy forces are withdrawing. No human casualties reported." No casualties. The humans had just fought the largest fleet in Confederation history and hadn't lost a single ship. Thexmore's flagship jumped to hyperspace with only 800 other vessels. Out of 4,000 ships, only 800 had survived. The Confederation's military power had been broken in a single afternoon. But worse than the military defeat was the knowledge that this wasn't over. The humans had revealed 4 fleets, referenced a 4th that wasn't present, and spoken of numbered fleets that suggested even more forces. As his battered fleet limped toward Confederation space, Thexmore realized the horrible truth. They had been fighting humanity's expeditionary forces. The real human military was still waiting, hidden in the depths of space. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. And the Confederation was already beaten. The emergency session of the Confederation High Council had been going for 6 hours. The chamber, normally filled with proud debates about expansion and conquest, now echoed with desperate whispers and fearful arguments. War Marshal Thexmore stood before the assembly, his once proud bearing broken by defeat. Around him, holographic displays showed the scattered remnants of what had been the greatest military force in galactic history. 800 ships, he reported quietly, out of 4,000. That's all that survived the human counterattack. Councillor Veltar's insectoid features clicked nervously. How is this possible? You said numbers would tell in our favor. The humans didn't fight like any species we've ever encountered, Thexmore replied. Their 4 fleets moved as one mind. Every ship knew where every other ship would be at any given moment. It was like fighting a single organism with 1,000 parts. Chairman Mordak, eldest of the council, raised a scaly hand for silence. What do we know about their total military strength? Intelligence Chief Inktar activated a new display. Our analysis of intercepted communications suggests they have at least 10 numbered fleets. We've positively identified 1st, 2nd, 5th, and 9th fleets in combat. References to 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 10th fleets appear in various communications. The council chamber fell silent. 10 fleets meant at least 2,000 ships. Possibly more. The Confederation had thrown everything they had against less than half of humanity's military power. We have one option remaining, Thexmore said finally. A direct assault on their home system. Sol. If we can strike at their heart with our remaining forces, we might be able to force a negotiated surrender. It was a desperate plan, born of desperation. But with their military broken and their colonies defenseless, the Confederation had no other choice. 3 days later, the last 800 ships of the Zephyrian Confederation dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. They came expecting to find a lightly defended home world, protected perhaps by a single fleet and some orbital defenses. What they found instead defied every assumption they had made about humanity. War Marshal, the censor chief whispered, his voice filled with terror. I'm reading massive fleet formations throughout the system. The tactical display lit up with contact markers. Ships by the hundreds hung in perfect defensive formations around the inner planets. But these weren't the same classes they had fought before. These were different fleets entirely, each with its own distinctive design philosophy. How many ships? Thexmore asked, though he dreaded the answer. Sir, I count at least 1,500 vessels in defensive positions. They're arranged in 6 distinct fleet formations. 6 fleets. Humanity had 6 complete military fleets defending their home system, in addition to the 4 they had sent to fight the Confederation's main force. A communication request appeared on Thexmore's display. The face that appeared was that of a middle-aged human woman, with steel-gray hair and calm, intelligent eyes. Behind her, other human officers stood at attention on what appeared to be a massive command bridge. War Marshal Thexmore, the woman said politely. I'm Admiral Sarah Okafor, Supreme Fleet Commander of Earth Defense. Welcome to Sol. You're just in time to meet the rest of the family. The woman's casual tone was more intimidating than any threat. She spoke as if the arrival of 800 enemy warships was merely an interesting diversion. You cannot have this many ships, Thexmore said desperately. No civilization can support 10 military fleets. Admiral Okafor smiled slightly. 10? Oh, War Marshal. I think there's been a misunderstanding. You've met 4 of our forward-deployed fleets. Here in Sol, you're facing the 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 10th fleets. That's 10 fleets total, as you correctly calculated. But that's impossible, Admiral Kethvar interrupted from his position. The resource requirements alone would bankrupt any civilization. Another human officer stepped forward, a tall man with Admiral's insignia. I'm Admiral Rodriguez, 3rd Fleet. Perhaps we can clear up some confusion. Humanity has been preparing for this scenario for over 50 years. We detected signs of spacefaring civilizations in this region decades ago and decided that first contact would likely be hostile. A woman in a different uniform joined the conversation. Admiral Kim, 8th Fleet. We've spent half a century building industrial capacity specifically to support large fleet operations. Every human world contributes to the defense effort. Admiral Okafor gestured to the tactical display visible behind her. Each of our 10 fleets numbers between 250 and 300 ships. War Marshal, we currently have approximately 2,800 vessels in active service, not counting support ships and planetary defense units. The number hit Thex more like a physical blow. 2,800 ships. The humans had a military force nearly 3 times larger than the Confederation's total fleet, and they had built it in secret over 5 decades. Why? He whispered. Why did you prepare for war when you had never encountered alien life? Admiral Okafor's expression grew serious. Because, War Marshal, humanity learned long ago that the universe is a dangerous place. We had no idea what we might encounter when we reached the stars. We decided to be ready for anything. Admiral Rodriguez nodded. Our military doctrine is based on a simple principle. Hope for peace, but prepare for war. When you're alone in the dark, you make sure you can defend yourself against whatever might be out there. The Confederation fleet began its final attack, knowing it was hopeless but having no other choice. 800 ships against nearly 3,000 was not a battle. It was execution. The human response was overwhelming. The 6 fleets defending Seoul moved with the same impossible coordination they had seen before, but on a scale that defied comprehension. Weapons fire from 1,500 ships created a web of destruction that no Confederation vessel could penetrate. Advanced technologies that the aliens had never seen before revealed themselves. Weapons that could bend space itself to reach their targets. Defensive systems that seemed to predict incoming fire before it was launched. Ships that could phase partially out of normal space to avoid damage. Within 30 minutes, the Confederation attack was over. Less than 50 ships survived to surrender. Admiral Okafor appeared on Thexmore's screen one final time. War Marshal, the Seoul Defense Command is prepared to accept your unconditional surrender. Your surviving ships will be escorted to a safe location where we can discuss terms. Thexmore stared at the human admiral in defeat. How did you do this? How did you build such a military force without anyone detecting it? Patience and paranoia, War Marshal. We had 50 years to prepare and the wisdom to use them well. We built our fleets in secret, trained our crews in isolation, and prepared for every possible scenario. Admiral Kim stepped forward. We never wanted war, War Marshal. We hoped for peaceful first contact, but we weren't willing to bet our survival on hope alone. As the surviving Confederation ships powered down their weapons and prepared for escort, Admiral Okafor delivered her final message. The war is over, War Marshal. Your Confederation will be treated with fairness and respect. We're not conquerors. We're defenders who proved we could defend ourselves. But understand this, Admiral Rodriguez added. Every civilization in this region of space will learn what happened here. They'll know that humanity came in peace, but was prepared for war. They'll know we have the strength to defend ourselves and our allies. Admiral Okafor nodded. Peace through strength, War Marshal. It's an old human concept. We prefer to be friends, but we're very good at being enemies when we have no other choice. 6 months later, Admiral Chen Wei stood on the observation deck of Earth's largest orbital station, watching the first Confederation diplomatic ships arrive for the peace negotiations. The war was over, and humanity had emerged victorious, without conquering anyone or seizing territory. The galaxy now knew that humanity was not to be trifled with. Word had spread through interstellar communication networks about the mysterious species that maintained 10 military fleets in secret, waiting patiently for contact with alien civilizations. Other species began reaching out with peaceful intentions, eager to establish trade relationships and mutual defense pacts with these powerful newcomers. Chen smiled as he watched the diplomatic ships dock. Humanity had achieved what they had always wanted: respect, security, and the freedom to explore the stars without fear. The 10 fleets remained on patrol, watching and waiting. Because while humanity preferred peace, they understood that eternal vigilance was the price of freedom. In the depths of space, human ships stood ready to defend their worlds and their allies. They had learned the most important lesson of all. When you're alone in the dark, you better make sure you're not helpless when the lights come on. The galaxy was a dangerous place, but humanity was ready for it.